missed 22 tackles. I think that's what Matt said. I've never heard of that number that high for a missed tackle.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of, I don't know if I've ever played a game that there was 50 runs, you know, so, but it was, and that's the thing, it wasn't, you know, one guy, it was, you know, it was everybody, you know, missing 1, 2, 3. So it was just, it was a bad deal, and, you know, that's the only thing that I know to do, and what we do as a coaching staff here is that, you know, we got right back to the fundamentals and the details of it, and as we've talked about many times in here, both when we've been tackling well and, you know, when we have a poor performance tackling, you know, you just got to go back to the basics and the fundamentals in practice and an individual. As we've said, you know, you don't tackle live at any point during the year other than, you know, the games that you play. So we try to create those scenarios for guys as best we can, try to create drills that are as realistic, but, you know, you can't create anything realistic to, you know, tackling Jalen Hurts until, you know, you got to go tackle him. So, yeah, it was a bad deal, but, you know, we went right back to work this week and working on the details, working on keeping leverage on the ball, we talk about population to the ball, as many hats to the ball. You know, when you're dealing with a great player, if you do miss a tackle, you know, you got that second, third, fourth, fifth guy there, you know, just relentless effort to the ball. So, but yeah, it was a bad display of tackling, no doubt about it.
You guys tackled pretty well early in the season, even against Josh Allen or Derrick Henry the week before. You guys tackled pretty well. Did you get a sense that you guys were defeated or even quit a little bit Sunday night?
No, I would never say that with our guys. I definitely don't think it was a lack of effort. You know, and that's something we look, you know, pretty hard at all the time. I think it was just, you know, an unfortunate night. You know, I wish I could put it on, you know, one specific thing or one specific guy, or, you know, there's all different types of tackles when you play in an NFL football game. You know, there's close quarter tackles, there's space tackles, and when I say close quarters, you know, within the tackle box, in the cylinder of the box, space tackles, and there was all different types. So, and it was unfortunate because I think we've, for the most part, we've tackled fairly well this year. I think we had a great tackling year last year. You know, so that's the thing that's unfortunate. That kind of, you know, I scratched my head with a little bit to have a performance like that, you know.
Just in general, from a big picture perspective, there was so much talk about how good this defense could be before the season, because of the way you finished in the playoff game. Why do you think things haven't quite worked out in that regard?
Yeah, I wish I've stayed up many nights, you know, thinking about that, and I wish it was one specific thing that I could, you know, put my finger on, you know, and we've talked about in here together on Thursdays that, you know, I think for periods, definitely periods during games, we've played dominant, you know, and for whatever reason, you know, you could say, especially the last couple weeks, you know, losing some players, not having some guys in there, you can say that, but, you know, everyone has to deal with injuries, and everyone has to, you know, have that next man up mentality. So there's a number of things that you could put your you know, put your finger on, but I wish I knew, you know. But as I tell you, with this group every week, and it's the truth, you know, they're a resilient, tough bunch, because they come in every week with a, you know, early in the week is usually a little rough for all of us, but by the time we walk off the grass on Wednesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon, the guys put in a 2 good days of work and are ready to go again.
It's not like you're facing a guy this week who likes to just stand back there. He's going to run again. What needs to change from defending the quarterback run game after what happened last year?
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, you know, I think, you know, when you're dealing with the You know, and I think with Hurts last week and with Fields this week, it's not just, you can't just say, oh, these guys are a mobile quarterback. You know, they're a different style of quarterback, you know, that's come into the NFL. And, you know, because you always got to be very aware of a quarterback that's you know, more athletic than just the classic drop back passer. You always got to have a plan and be aware of it. With these guys, I mean, it's truly a, you know, college style offense where they're not just, you know, running around when things break down, when pass protection breaks down. I mean, they're running, you know, legitimate quarterback design runs all the time. And when you're dealing with an athlete like Justin Fields, you can't just rely on, you know, hey, you're the free hitter, you gotta make the tackle, because it's hard. These guys are special athletes with the ball in their hand in space. They're big, they're fast, they're powerful, and that's where, you know, I think you as a unit, you can't rely a lot of times on just one guy, because again, they're going to make you miss. They're going to make you miss a tackle. And that's where, you know, the population to the ball, the strain, the effort, the relentless pursuit to the ball for the whole game, because it's not just something that happens in certain situations. These guys are legitimate ball carriers from the start of the game to the end of the game. So I think it's just something that, you know, we've stressed and we've talked about, but it's got to be on everyone. It can't just be on one guy.
Before he didn't play last week, it seemed Justin had been a lot more productive lately than
yeah.
maybe he had been the last time you saw him.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Is it just the way their scheme, or just what's
You know, I think it's obviously it was a Luke being new. You know, I think as a play caller on the offensive side of the ball, you kind of figure out what you have as it goes. But you know, I don't have off the top of my head the specific numbers with what they've done, you know, the last 5 or 6 weeks, but it's, you know, they've rushed for, you know, 250 yards every week. I mean, it's staggering, and I think they're just finding their way as an offense, and definitely, you know, Luke's finding, you know, a way that he's definitely comfortable with calling plays with Fields.
You talked early in the season, or even during training camp, about your defensive line being special.
Yeah.
So when I would hear that word, I would think there'd be a group that would dominate guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't the case. I realized you guys missed tackles, but there was a lot of wide open lanes too. Why
No
has
question.
a special group not performed?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to give. I think Philadelphia has a really good offensive line, and they did a great job. They really did. As far as getting hats on a hat and not allowing, you know, total free hitters, as we talk about, especially in the run game. But yeah, I think it was, you know, I tip my hat to Philadelphia, but I still believe in that group of guys that we have in the entire defense, but especially up front. You know, I believe in Kenny Clark, I believe in Dean Lowry, Jaron Reed. You know, that whole group. So I'm excited to see them play this Sunday.
Kenny's been pretty quiet though this year. I mean, he had some sacks. I realize there's more than sacks, but I don't think he's done much since week 3 in that regard, and I don't think he really was their life.
But as I've told you guys before, you know, I think definitely for especially a defensive lineman, and it doesn't matter if you're an interior lineman or you know, an outside rusher, you know, to get into a rhythm, to get into a flow, you know, that usually happens. You know, it kind of spark plugs you when you get a sack. And you know, we've just been, it's hard to get into that kind of rhythm, you know, definitely, for example, on a game against the Eagles when you're defending 50 runs, you know. But we got to, you know, whatever course of game, we can't control that as defenders. You know, we got to play the course of the game the way the course of the game goes. And if we got to defeat reach blocks and base blocks and get off blocks and, you know, make tackles that way to get us going, to get us, you know, that spark, we got to do whatever it takes. So, and that's what we're going to have to do this week as well.
Hey, Joe, I think Justin Hollins played like 22 snaps. Is that about right for him, or do you think you can even maybe push that a little bit more?
Sure. You know, I think it's, you know, as you guys know, I had a history with Justin for a year in LA. And there's similarities with him coming here, but it's still, 2 years removed. Me being here for 2 years, him being in a similar system but different for 2 years. So, I was actually, Justin's a pretty smart, cerebral guy. He was able to, he literally, I think Matt told you the story. He met the head coach and his position coach literally in stretch on Thursday last week. So that's when he got here. So for him to be able to, get here on Thursday and then, play 20 plus snaps on Sunday, I think is pretty cool. So, and of course, Justin's the type of guy that wants to be on the field all the time. As you guys know, with the defensive end / outside linebacker position, that's a group of guys you like to roll, you like to have a rotation. So, obviously the more he can play, it will help us.
Joe, you guys had to deal with the doubles that Aaron Donald got all the time, and I'm not saying Kenny gets doubled as much as Aaron Donald. I don't know if anybody does, but
Yeah. How
do you get him into positions? If he's struggling, how do you get him into a position?
I think you got to do it. That's a great question. I think that there's no way to completely, based on the, especially in the run game, based on the type of run that you have called offensively, they're going to have structures where they're always going to account, especially for the interior guys. They're always going to be able to hopefully have, 2 people accounting for that guy, double teams. Now the thing that you can do to help that is you play multiple fronts, you play different fronts. Within those fronts, you're able to have movements called to move them, to kind of counter, the hard double teams. But to completely be able to create, no double teams for, a 3 technique defensive tackle or a nose guard defensive tackle. That's challenging, but that's the way you combat it is, you have multiple front variations, and then within those multiple front variations, you're able to move. So that's how we try to counter it.
I know you said you don't want it to be all on one guy, but what are the pros and cons of having a spy on someone like Justin Fields?
Well, I think it starts with that. But, for example, when you do have a spot, you have, the first third down of the game, we had a 4-man rush with, a spy. So really, you have 5 people dedicated to him instead of just 4, as a 4-man rush. And, we always have different ways to deploy that with any kind of scrambling quarterback. But, at the end of the day, when he broke through, it was a one-on-one tackle that really ends up being on that person. But as I keep saying, when you're playing against quarterbacks like this, or really any time that you're playing against, great ball carriers, you cannot just solely put it on one guy. You got to put it on, it's got to be a collective group effort. I keep referring to population to the ball. You got to get as many hats as humanly possible off blocks and to the ball, so you're not just relying on one guy to make that tackle.
Joe, when it goes this way for a defense with such high expectations, obviously a lot of responsibility, right or wrong, is put on the coordinator. We're not
Sure.
behind the scenes, but I'm curious what you think have maybe been your shortcomings in this season, or things that you might have done differently if you could go back and start the season again.
Oh, I am a process-driven person, and one thing that about me is that I'm all about consistency. I'm going to show up exactly the same way every single day, and I'm going to preach the things that I believe in. I'm going to bring energy every single day, and the last thing that I'll ever do is second guess anything. Of course, there's sometimes that definitely throughout a game, for example, you wish you have a specific callback. But as far as second guessing things, I'm not wired or built that way. I believe in this group still. I believe in our process, the way we prepare. And sometimes, in a process, the results aren't going to be what you want. And then you just got to go back to the drawing board, and you just got to work a little bit harder. You got to, maybe stress a few things a little bit differently. But as far as the process and those things that I believe in, you know, that's never wavered with me.